Welcome to the Flip Your Script podcast. I'm Christy Peel. Adam Llorens is a journalist and storyteller who turned an unexpected career setback into using social media for good, which led him to his current media role that allows him to pursue his passion. So how's that for an introduction? Adam, welcome to the podcast.
That's a fantastic introduction. Thank you so much, Christy. I really do appreciate that. It was great having you on the show, and now I'm on yours. So returning the favor for you. I really do appreciate this invitation.
Yeah, we're flipping the script right there. You know, it's funny, Adam, because I was on your show talking about the book and my book and the concept around social media. And at the very end, when the cameras were off, you said, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you more. I got my job because of social media." And then it was like, oh my goodness, it's such a great story. So to set it up, you were in media, you were laid off, and then talk about how social media helped you, because so often social media gets such a bad rap, and you're pretty passionate about using it for good and for connection.
Yeah. And, you know, Christy, it's so interesting that you bring up the bad rep that social media gets, because I feel like at one point in my life, it had a bad rep for me too, before I really realized the power of it and how it could really help me. So to go back, I was living in New York. I was working for NFL Network, and the show that I was a part of, I had an on-camera segment in the show, but I was a producer behind the scenes, and to no fault of my own, that job went away. They moved away from New York. They didn't take anybody from the really from the New York operation to its next operation. So I was left kind of in a little bit of shambles. That happened in March of 2024. In April, with the encouragement of my best friend and some other people, I started experimenting around with TikTok. And Christy, the third video I ever made, and there was no real direction behind my TikTok. It was just kind of just whatever. The third video I ever made, I just woke up one morning, and when you're unemployed, you got tons of time to kind of, do whatever. I just decided to rank the top three Catholic hymns of all time. I went to Notre Dame. Catholicism has been kind of a centerpiece of my life since I can ever really remember. My great aunt is a nun. I went to Catholic schools. So I just ranked the top three Catholic hymns of all time. One bread, one body. Here I am, Lord. On Eagle's Wings, which, by the way, I know that this is a Minnesota-based podcast, and to any of our Minnesota Catholic viewers or listeners out there, and I can get to this in a second, as I've discovered through social media, On Eagle's Wings, which arguably one of the most profound and most popular Catholic hymns of all time, written in St. Paul, Minnesota, 50 years ago, 1976. Father Michael Jonkis, a graduate of the University of St. Thomas. That song is turning 50 years old this year. Anyways, and I'll get to kind of how I got led to him and whatever, but I did this video. I go to bed, Christy. I wake up. I've got like 3,000 followers on TikTok, and it scared me because I didn't have that many followers on Instagram, and all these random people that were just like following me. It was a little kind of like a little frightening in a way. So I didn't really touch TikTok too much for the next several months. There were some job opportunities. Again, I'm unemployed during all of this. There were some job opportunities that kind of came about. Nothing ever materialized. I got to final round interviews. Things didn't work out. And just as a sidetrack, I've realized as I've gotten older, and I'm not trying to say I'm the oldest or the wisest in the room here. I'm 33.
Because you're not older than me. I'm much older than you. So I appreciate that.
I'm not. I've realized I'm more grateful in life for the no's than I am for the yeses, because all of the no's have actually brought me to the places that I needed to ultimately be. So for anybody that can take anything away from that, I've learned that. Anyways, I get rejected. I get to a final round with this NFL team, and they even reject me. And I was devastated after this team rejected me. I was going to be a producer for them, and they rejected me. And so my best friend from Notre Dame, he calls me. He's like, "Look, Adam," he's like, "you're going to have to start making your own reps." He's like, "Nobody's going to give you reps." He's like, "You already have a built-in fan base of people that like Catholic-centric, fun Catholic-centric content." He's like, "Just give the people what they want." He's like, "You live in New York." He's like, "There's a church on every corner." He's like, "Just go start going to some of these churches and telling stories and make it fun, make it interesting." Make it for everybody, not just the every Sunday Catholics. Make it for everybody. Make it for people that went to Catholic school growing up and maybe don't go to church anymore. Make it for people that are not of the Catholic faith or don't believe anything at all, but just appreciate a good story. So I started doing that. And now we're almost 180 videos of 180 different churches that I visited, not just in New York City, but all across the United States. We've hit churches in California, Texas, Louisiana, Pennsylvania, Washington, D.C., Florida, Michigan, Ohio, obviously Minnesota. In fact, my most viewed video that I have produced was the Chapel of St. Thomas Aquinas on the campus of the University of St. Thomas, which I would have never have bet in a million years that would be my most popular, most viewed video. But I made the point of that video. I told the story of Father Michael Jonkis and the song On Eagle's Wings. And because of that video, I actually got connected through social media. There was a guy living in St. Paul. He was following me. I know I'm kind of going to different tangents here and I apologize. I was going to mass at Assumption Church in downtown St. Paul. What a beautiful church that is. And I got recognized as I was walking into mass by this guy. His name is Frank. And he's like, Adam, he's like, I've been following you for months. He's like, welcome to Minnesota. He's like, how can I help you? I was like, Frank, I was like, I was just at the University of St. Thomas doing this thing about On Eagle's Wings. I was like, might you know Father Michael Jonkis? Frank promised me that he was super connected within the Twin Cities Catholic community. He's like, I can get to him for you. Within 2 months later, I was able to land an interview with Father Michael Jonkis. Again, all through kind of the power of all of this. So I know I've kind of gone on different tangents here, but through these videos, there was a Notre Dame alumnus working at Fox Corporation in New York that found me, liked me, reached out to me, and was like, we need to get you a job. We need to get you within the Fox family. And so we started sending some notes and making some calls on my behalf. And that's what ultimately led me to Fox 9 here in Minneapolis, St. Paul. It's owned and operated by Fox. I would not have gotten this job if it weren't for Instagram and if it weren't for the videos that I did. And, Christy, again, when I was crying because that NFL team rejected me in August of 2024, I had a decision to make. I could either continue to wilt and wallow and feel bad for myself and say how unfair the world is and how unjust everything is, or I could take matters into my own hands and start creating my own luck and start creating my own opportunities. And to kind of put a bow tie on my little segment here, before I didn't really truthfully realize the power of social media and the power that it really had. I learned very quickly just how powerful it is and how powerful it continues to be for me. Opportunities have been presented to me because of Instagram that I would not have received otherwise. And I really believe that there will continue to be opportunities that will come my way because of the work that I'm doing on Instagram and TikTok. So for anybody out there that has a real passion and really thinks that they can do something, all it takes is a little bit of courage and some effort and some patience. It's a little daunting, being on Park Avenue on the Upper East Side outside St. Ignatius Loyola Church, filming yourself for the first time like I did when I made my first video. There's all these people looking at you and whatever. But with repetition and with time, it kind of comes natural, and you can start creating your own opportunities and your own luck by the power of what you're doing by yourself. So I don't know if that totally answers your question there, but I hope
Yeah, a lot. You said a lot of really powerful things. If anyone has been to a funeral,
yes,
in any church service of most denominations, you've heard the song.
yes, yeah, and I talked about that with Father Michael Jonkis. It was Luciano Pavarotti. It was sung at his funeral mass in Italy. President Joe Biden, only our second Catholic president, referenced that song many times during the course of his presidency. I mean, that song has touched just so many different people. And who would have thought that it was written in St. Paul, Minnesota, and written by an alumnus of the University of St. Thomas? So yeah, that has been one of the most powerful and one of the coolest things that I've gotten to do. And again, none of that happens without Instagram and without TikTok. None of that happens if I happen to be in the right place at the right time, going to Assumption that Saturday evening, ran into Frank. Frank used to be I should note he used to be involved at Cretan Durham Hall. So I knew when he told me that, I knew he was really connected. But for him to kind of lead me to Father Mike and for that all to work out, it was really cool. So many just cool and awesome opportunities have presented themselves by creating my own luck and creating my own sort of chances here.
And what's interesting about your story too, Adam, is that you didn't start out on social media and think, you know what, I'm going to become a Catholic influencer who I imagine that you're generating revenue at this point. You have 24,000 Instagram followers and you have opportunities opening up. And will you someday only be a Catholic influencer and not be Fox 9 guy? I don't know. I have no inside information, but the content creation game is a lucrative one, but that isn't why you started. And I think that is what, and you didn't start it to go down this path of Catholic content creator influencer, and you didn't start it to get another job. You did it because you have passion there and you had time and you took a risk. And I think for folks who think that using social media for good means I'm going to start something for the purpose of generating revenue or to be viral, it just doesn't work. But when you start it for like, I appreciate this content, maybe someone else will too. And in the divisive world that we live in, and Catholicism has gotten a lot of negative press. I mean, my kids went to Catholic school. I have deep appreciation for the faith and the importance. I've been to the Vatican and I have a lot of Catholic friends, and it's had a rough patch, right? I mean, the fact that there's now a American Pope, I think is helping in the US, but the Catholic Church could pay for ads, and they have in the past, right? And it's like, well, that's coming from the Catholic Church. But when cool, young, you used to call yourself old, but young guy who's from Notre Dame, which like people love Notre Dame, is out there saying that this faith has impacted him and these places have impacted him, it's the best sort of advertisement for a faith that we know across the world, faith communities are struggling. But yet that wasn't your intention. That my whole point is like, that wasn't, you just did it because you wanted to put out some good content in a world that's divisive and hateful. And you took on sort of a controversial topic and you're finding all sorts of people who are resonating with it. That has to feel good at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And you brought up a lot of great points there. Number one, I could not have handpicked a better pope with Pope Leo, our first American pope, a pope from Chicago who likes Chicago style hot dogs and deep dish pizza and went to basketball games as an undergrad at Villanova. That's like incredible stuff right there. And so I don't necessarily think that Catholicism is going to be front page New York Times headlines every single day in the United States, but I think that it is going to here in the US, it's going to continue to be a topic of conversation because we're in a situation that we've never been in before with an American Pope. And so that certainly helps kind of having Catholicism be top of mind in this country. But yeah, you're 100% right. I didn't really do this with any intention. The intention of the videos was really just to give me reps and see if it can ultimately get me a job. I didn't really realize that after I kind of checked that box and it got me the job, I didn't realize how profound it would continue to be even after I got the job and how much it would continue to grow even after the job kind of came about. And you brought up the word influencer, and that's a word that I've kind of struggled with if I'm being honest. I've been very fortunate. The Catholic Church tours things, those are great. I have this other series on Instagram called Up the Aisle, and basically the concept of Up the Aisle is you walk up the aisle of a church, and we've actually done up the aisles now. I've delved into into our Jewish neighbors, done a couple of rabbis now as well, and walked up the aisles of their synagogues, but doing some personality driven interviews, talking not necessarily about Catholic doctrine, but things that they like. And I was very fortunate that my first guest was Cardinal Dolan, and Cardinal Dolan, we did it at St. Patrick's Cathedral in Midtown Manhattan, and we talked about Budweiser beer. He's from St. Louis and he loves that. We talked about the St. Louis Cardinals. He loves the Cardinals, and we talked about Notre Dame football. And he pulled me aside when we were done doing the up the aisle interview, and he goes, Adam, he's like, I really love what you're doing. He's like, don't ever let anybody call you an influencer. He goes, because in my eyes, he goes, you're an evangelizer. He goes, you're
Ooh,
helping to spread the message to people that might not already receive it. Now, Christy, I am no evangelizer. Okay. Like that's not a word that I would ever attach to myself, because I'm not a saint. I'm not some sort of, I'm not a priest. Like that's not my world. And my videos don't ever get preachy. They don't get, you should do this, you should do that. I'm just a storyteller. I like telling stories. And I have found, to your point, I have found a niche audience, a hyper niche audience
a
of,
big one though, a big niche audience,
yeah,
which is
of,
awesome.
yeah, of people that really enjoy hearing these stories and getting connected to churches all across the country that, for the vast majority of them, they'll never be able to visit in their life. And I think that people really identify with that. I didn't realize how many people, when they travel across the United States, stop into different churches just to check them out. I didn't realize that there were actual people that really do that. But I've learned that there are a lot of people that do that. And what I'm doing is I'm basically providing kind of glimpses into these sacred spaces, again, that a lot of people will never get to in their life, but they feel like with me, they're kind of going inside them and being able to check them out, and hopefully picking up a little bit of a story or hearing a little bit of a tidbit of information, whether it is about the church or maybe a notable wedding or a funeral mass that's been held there, or a notable parishioner that was there, or whatnot. So I think that a lot of these, this niche audience has really kind of identified with the work that I'm doing. And look, I started 2025 with like, I think it was like 1,500 followers, and we ended 2025 at 24,000. And so I'm not a numbers guy. Like I think it could be a little kind of like, I don't know, maybe I'm probably too humble for, or I don't want to, I shouldn't call myself humble, because that's the exact opposite of probably being humble. But I'm not a big numbers guy, but I have learned that this the audience that's out there's people out there that really like this, and I think that I can continue to grow this even more, and kind of see where it takes me. And look, I there's a big part of all my videos is a hymn that I put as I put up the shots of the churches. And one of my favorite Catholic hymns is "We Walk by Faith and Not by Sight," it's called. And I really feel like I'm I feel like in my heart I'm kind of trying my best to live out those words of really walking by faith and not so much by sight. I don't know where this path is leading me ultimately. I don't know what the end game is. I don't know where I'm ultimately going to end up because of these. But I know I'm onto something good, and I know I'm onto something that is worthwhile to me. It's something that I truly do enjoy doing. It's a passion of mine that I'm able to actually live out now and incorporate all of the skills that I've learned from being, with a number of different television networks, and from New York to now Minnesota, and pick up all the skills that I've learned there and be able to apply them to a passion of mine, which is Catholicism. I don't know where that's ultimately going to lead me, but I know I'm on the right path, and I know I'm onto something good. And I'm just kind of just trusting in the plan and the process that's ahead of me.
There are so many nuggets, and if I was a faith podcast, I would sort of take you this way, and I'm so tempted to, but I'm going to stay on the social media path, because when churches were started, right, it was about connection, and it was about bringing people together. And I love that you're taking a platform and platforms that have been attacked for causing divisiveness, and you're taking the audience back to a place of community and a sacred, special kind of place. And you're using this platform to bring it to more people. And I'm a woman of faith, and I have said when I talk, I do social media training, or I talk with folks who and especially folks who I know appreciate the faith aspect of a holistic human being, that, what if the disciples had social media? Like, think of how a message or a miracle could spread in the age of social media. So why people who are deeply serious about their faith aren't using social media to share their own story, not to preach, not to, tell you should do this or you should think this, but just to use it to share their own experience with their faith. Why aren't they doing it? And many people of faith and many people who are passionate about their faith are getting off of social media because they feel like it's so divisive. But in my perspective, it's because folks are using it as a platform to tell people what they should do instead of just show people what their faith means to them. And for anyone, whether you're identify with a faith background or not, walk into whether it's a cathedral or a synagogue or an evangelical, whatever kind of church building you want to walk into, and really listen and pay attention. There's something special and holy and set apart in those places. And I just love that you're bringing that to a platform that isn't known for being sacred or holy or special or set apart. And again, back to how it all started, it was, this is what matters to me. I'm going to put it out there with no expectation. And here you are. And I bet you meet Pope Leo. This is my prediction. I bet that you get the big invite to the Vatican, and then we'll talk again. But just wait.
Well, I'd love to interview Pope Leo as part of my Up the Aisles, and I've talked about this with people, and I think it'd be amazing to interview him at St. Peter's Basilica, but I think it'd be also equally amazing to interview him at Holy Name Cathedral in downtown Chicago, or at his home church in Chicago, St. Rita of Kashka, which is an Augustinian church where he really first learned about the Augustinian order. Pope Leo is our first Augustinian pope as well. Doing him obviously over in Rome would be amazing. Would love to interview Pope Leo in Chicago as well. I would sign up for that in a heartbeat, and I think that would be awesome too. But to all the points that you're bringing up, I have consciously decided, again, my video, I don't tell people what they should or shouldn't be doing. I don't tell people, that's not my lane. I'm not like, my video, they're not preachy. And really, truthfully speaking, I don't really even know that my videos are completely, totally Catholic oriented. I think if a person just appreciates beautiful places and a good story, then I think that they will find some appeal and joy from my videos. The vast majority of them happen to be inside Catholic spaces. But it's not like there's any sort of Catholic sort of like ideology that I'm trying to like force down people. Like, that's not my thing, and that's not my lane, and that's not who I am. Again, going back to that conversation I had with my best friend who was really pushing for me to really kind of start this, he told me, he's like, look, you already have this base of Catholic centric TikTok followers. He's like, just continue to give the people what they want. Make fun, engaging, non-weird content that's for everybody, and make it a welcome mat for everybody, for people that are going to mass every single Sunday, all the way to the people that haven't been to mass in a long time, all the way to the people that aren't of the Catholic faith at all, or maybe don't believe in anything at all, but they will enjoy a good story and some beautiful images. I used to work at CBS Sports in New York, I think I was saying, and several of my bosses over there were not Catholic. And there's a beautiful church. CBS Sports is on 57th Street and 10th Avenue. There's a beautiful church in New York, one of my favorites in the country, St. Paul the Apostle. It's on 6th, 59th in Columbus. So right around the corner from CBS Sports. And when I profiled that church for the first time, I had three of my bosses at CBS who are not of the Catholic faith reach out to me and tell me, Adam, they basically all said the exact same thing. I have walked past St. Paul's no less than 1,000 times over the course of the last 15 years. Never been inside. Certainly didn't know that Billie Holiday's funeral was held there. That's awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. And I think, again, for so many people, we live in the context of our busy lives. We're walking on city sidewalks and streets. There's so many buildings that we walk past thousands of times per year, or maybe not thousands of times per year, but thousands of times over the course of our life. And we never go inside. We never know what's inside there. We never know what it looks like on the interior. And, for me, I hope that I'm able to kind of provide a glimpse into the interior of a place that somebody has maybe always wanted to go inside, but they haven't been able to go before. I think one of the most powerful things that ends up happening to me, and it doesn't happen often, but on occasion, I'll get a comment from somebody and they'll say, Adam, I've been meaning to go to this church for so many years now. I haven't been to church in such a long time. I'm so happy that I saw this video. I'm going to go next Sunday. And I think that that's just like the most like profound thing, to think that one of my, measly videos is bringing somebody to church. That's like, I never thought that I would have that kind of pull or that kind of reach, but here I am. So, truthfully, again, Christy, I haven't been able to like totally grasp all of this. It's kind of happened. It all happened kind of very quickly over the course of 2025. I just consider myself so fortunate and lucky to be on the path that I'm on, and have and been able to have met the right people along the way in this journey of doing New York City Catholic Church tours and doing my up the aisle interviews and doing all this other stuff on social media. And I feel so confident that these things are going to end up getting me whatever is next in life, or the thing after that, or the thing after that. Again, I was a person that just kind of viewed Instagram as a way of just like kind of, looking at people's stories and looking through old pictures of people. I never knew the true power and the true reach that Instagram had until I started really doing this. And I think we throw around the phrase X and X has changed my life, and I feel like that's probably thrown around a little too liberally, but this truly has changed my life. And I know that my life will really never be the same again because of this and what it's brought to me.
Well, congratulations on taking a passion, turning it into something, using social media for good. And really, for many people have felt that churches are buildings that are not for them, or for some reason there's something that's keeping them away from them. And yet, if you have visited any, Catholic churches around the country or internationally, some of the most beautiful architecture and the stories, and whether you connect to the faith or not, you're making them welcoming again. And that's something that has been so lost. So for many people, I get why your videos and why your content is so compelling. It's great content. It's using social media for good. And you really have flipped the script on a few different things: social media, Catholicism, and some of these buildings, right? And again, to your point, that wasn't what you started out to do, but here you are. And I can't wait to hear where your career goes next. And I'm so glad our paths crossed, and I hope they cross again. And I thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a real joy to live in Minnesota. I'm not from here. Like I said, I moved here from New York. I was born in Los Angeles. Spent a childhood in a couple other places, but Minnesota is definitely this is a first for me of living here, and I feel like I've learned so much about myself in this state, and learned so much about myself in the job that I have. One of the best parts of my job has been all the different people I've gotten to meet, people like yourself, and the connections that I've made. So I'm so grateful that our paths crossed, and I'm so grateful for this invitation to come on here today. And I'm looking forward to following this podcast and staying in touch with you in the months and years down the line.
Thank you so much, Adam. Thanks for coming on the podcast. And again, we're cheering you on.
Thank you, Christy. Appreciate it.